This is 1360 AM. WNJC, Washington Township, Philadelphia. Philadelphia's Renaissance radio station. Brought to you from Forsyth Broadcasting. Or listen to us at WNJCradio.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the Sea of Abaco, the smiling coast I know, only one more mile to go.
Enjoy.com.
Hello, I'm Reverend Carl Kelly, and I head up the Frederick Douglass Foundation of Indiana. President Obama's attacks on the Constitution continues to be aided and abetted by one of his trusted allies in Congress, ultra-liberal Democrat Andre Caution of Indianapolis, nationally known for his infamous racial rants against the Tea Party. I want to tell you about J.D. Manier. J.D. will be a representative for the people of the 7th District. J.D. Manier is a pro-growth Reagan conservative and is co-host of the conservative Commandos Radio show. He is asking you to join his army of supporters in order to defeat Carson and go to Washington to demand special prosecutors for Benghazi, the IRS, and other scandals. J.D. is interested in what's good for the people of the 7th District, not Nancy Pelosi. He will promote strong economic growth and jobs by getting the government off the backs of the people, voting for tax cuts and slashing regulations. Help elect a pro-life defender of freedom who will strongly support Israel, vote to cut wasteful spending, and battle to repeal Obama's socialist agenda. Log on to ManierForCongress.com and donate today. That's MINIEAR for Congress.com. Paid for and authorized by the J.D. Manier for Congress Committee.
I'm J.D. Manier, candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives, Indiana District 7, and I approve of this message.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360 and WIFI 1460. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome, everybody, and welcome, fellow patriots. Welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos radio show. Coming to you a little early today, as we do sometimes on Wednesday afternoon. And we're coming to you directly from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station, and around the world on the Internet via our Internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And joining me today as my co-host, as he usually does on Wednesday afternoons, is Jonathan Mosley. John, welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show. Hello, John, are you there? Well, sometimes John is there, and sometimes John is not there. John Forsythe Jr., maybe you could get John back on the air. Oh, he is there. John, are you there now?
I am here now, yeah.
All right.
Had to drop off a rental car and rush back. How you doing?
Good. You did all that in 5 minutes, right?
No, I was just recovering from having done that.
Trying to catch your breath again.
Right.
All right. Well, John, what's going on? What's hot on your radar screen this week?
Well, first of all, I was really surprised that the U.S. military, I guess, is going into Poland, and we're authorized to conduct. Our U.S. military is conducting exercises, I guess, in Poland. That seems awfully like a gutsy move, don't you think?
Well, what's it going to do?
What's that?
What's it going to do?
Well, I think I didn't. It's still more man pants than I thought Obama had in him.
There's in my opinion, that's no man pants about it. What he sent in 150 troops, John, and that's going to keep the Russian army out of Eastern Europe.
But here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that what happened was that Michelle thought they were going to do physical exercises, and so she thought, okay, that's it. Well, they're going to do part of her Let's Move campaign, and do some just do some exercising with the Polish.
Well, from what I understand, that Let's Move program is not moving very many people to do very much.
Really, you saw some measurement on that?
Yeah, I did. I saw it this week on things that come across my desk here that obesity is at another all-time high, and this in spite of Michelle's Let's Move program. So apparently, Michelle's Let's Move program's not moving very many.
I don't know, but who doesn't need a nanny? You talk about the nanny state. Who doesn't need to be scolded and what's the word?
Chided.
Every nation needs to have someone to nag, right? And nag us, right? But anyway, but seriously, I don't think that Russia is going to invade Ukraine or invade Poland. I mean, what's the point? I think that's what you're getting at. What's the point of, we're going to be really strong that, let's say Russia, we're not going to let Russia invade Chicago. We're being tough,
Well, John, I think it's an embarrassment. I mean, this is our response. And I'm sure Vladimir Putin is laughing at Obama, too. That's your response? That's the best you can do? That's the best you can do, big boy?
Right.
I mean, it's a joke. He would have been better off doing nothing, sending 150 troops into Poland. Jeez. Maybe as a result, they'll bring back some Polish brides. I don't know. But I think it's idiotic.
Our military boys will...
Well, there's some very pretty women in Poland, you know.
There are.
Yes.
And war brides throughout the world are sort of a tradition.
Sure.
So...
well, listen, if you had your choice of going to Afghanistan, Iraq, or Poland, where would you want to go?
Well, absolutely. Well, at least in Poland, you're allowed to date.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I'm saying, John. At least in Poland, maybe you're allowed to pray. Maybe in Poland, we'll be able to display our flag. Maybe in Poland, our women troops will have the same rights as they do here. Hey, right. And probably some of the troops will be women that go into Poland, so maybe there'll be some Polish grooms coming back. Who knows? But this is the only good that I could see coming out of it. I think it's a joke, 150 troops. Yeah, that's going to stop the Russian army.
Well,
yeah.
But not just that, but as I was saying, the Russian troops aren't going to Poland. Poland's not where they're going. So, Georgia...
hey, you know what we should send to Poland? We should send 150 missiles.
Wait, I want...
150 missiles. Let's send 150 missiles to Poland.
We could do that.
There.
Maybe some anti-ballistic missiles.
There you go.
That we could do.
There you go. That might send some sort of a message, because it's Obama that's kept the missiles out of Poland. That was promised to the Polish government by our government to help protect them. Let's send 150 anti-ballistic missiles to Poland. Mm-hmm. That might be saying something to Putin. More than 150 troops.
Exactly. And but Georgia is already in some trouble. You talk. I mean, they already treated them badly, but they could complete the job. Belarus is under the thumb of the most Stalinist leader in the world before Putin. So
you mean Barack Obama is also their leader?
No, believe it or not.
Well, you said the most Stalinist leader, so
there is some competition. What's the guy's name? I'll have to look it up. So they don't have to really invade Belarus. They just have to say, friends, hail friends, well met. And Lithuania is in some. If we sent troops to Lithuania, now you're getting close to the Russian border. Estonia, Latvia, where I spent a lot of time. They're under some threat. Maybe Bulgaria, maybe Yugoslavia, but Poland? I mean, Poland's, several chess moves away.
So we'll send 150 to Poland. We'll send 150 to Latvia. We'll send 150 to Lithuania, 150 to Bulgaria, and that's going to stop the Russian army?
Right, exactly. Well,
I mean, it's a joke.
Russia's gotten very anti-gay. So perhaps we could send the San Francisco attack squad over there.
Maybe.
To fight back with them. That would be a possibility. But anyway, so...
Well, all these great gay rights activists, all these people that are fighting for gay rights, let's form an army. Let's form an army of gay activists and send them over there. They want to stop gay discrimination. There's no greater gay discrimination than in the Soviet Union. Well, maybe in some Muslim countries, but hey, that's a start. That's a start.
Well, anyway, speaking of now, what's amazing? Did you see that? I barely saw this news. This is on NBC News. Obama is not welcome in the Philippines. That there was a huge protest against Obama in the Philippines just recently, and things are strange around the world. And then you speak of...
Well, why are they saying he's not welcome? What's the reason for it? I can't blame them, but what are the Filipinos saying? Why don't they?
I'm having a computer issue here. I have to get it back up again. But they had water cannons to try to. they're protesting his visit to the Philippines. Let me get back to you on that just a second when my computer
That's why we print things out on this end, John.
What?
That's why we print things out on this end.
Yeah, well, I should. I know, but it's when I'm over in the Bahamas, paper's hard to get a hold of. But anyway, so
well, where are you now? You're in Florida, aren't you?
Just got back to in here. Yeah.
Yeah. They've got these stores in Florida. They're called Staples.
Yeah, I'm just being bad here. Well,
as am I.
Anyway, my bad, mea culpa. Anyway, so the thing is that, and then you got. Let's preview the next story. We've got. While it's restarting here, we've got 200 Christian children were massacred on their way to school by the Boko Haram Muslim terrorists, and nobody, you haven't heard about that because again, nobody cares. This was in the Islamic State, an independent Islamic state declared within northeast Nigeria. Nigeria is a largely Christian African country that is in a real civil war with Islam, and more just being victimized. So here, and the point of this article is: did anybody hear this anywhere?
No.
That this is being reported on Sharia Unveiled, and it's coming from by the Clarion Project. There is a great deal of violence in any Islamic country that is largely Christian. They're very much under attack, and we're not hearing about it. So that's where the gay activists are not going to go because they don't care about.
Hey, John, with that, we got to go to a break. We're up against a break already.
Right.
Time flies when I'm having fun.
Okay.
And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and around the world on the internet via our new internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos radio show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. It's a free call, so use your cell phone. Please don't go away. John and I will be right back.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, as we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Sometimes on Wednesday, like today, we do start our show at 2. And please call your friends, have them listen in. So, Jonathan Mosley, before we go any further, why don't we tell our audience who our guests are going to be today?
Well, it's very exciting. We're going to have, at 4 o'clock, our headline guest, Ralph Reed, our author of a new book, Awakening. He's had several books. I think this is his 6th book, including one novel he wrote. And, of course, he's founded the Christian Coalition and has created something similar called the Faith and Freedom Coalition, which I think is, I don't know if he wants to say it that way, but it's sort of a successor to the Christian Coalition. And we noticed that he was reported by John Gizzi of Newsmax to have played a role in a recent election victory in Florida, the 13th Congressional District, in their special election. And we reached out to him, and it turns out, but he just also has a book out, so we're going to talk about his book today, and hopefully maybe we'll get to talk about other things sometime too. So anyway, we're going to have a great interview with him on that. And at 3:30, we're going to have someone from the American Petroleum Institute of Pennsylvania, near this radio station in Philadelphia, talking about a lot of the political issues that are going on from the standpoint of a recent poll that has come out, which I think has a lot of bearing on the politics of all the fights we're talking about on green energy, fracking, everything else like that. Stephanie Katerina Weissman is going to be talking about some surprising and very encouraging poll results within Pennsylvania, and that will be exciting. Then we're going to have in our last half hour a person I'm just getting to know is really quite amazing. Sad that you have to talk about who somebody is racially, but very interesting in terms of the role he's playing. Stephen Broden is head of the Constitutional Defenders of Texas. He was a congressional candidate. He's been given awards by the National Republican Campaign Committee for his work business. He's part of the Black pro-life movement, and he's trying to teach African American pastors on America's culture war. Really an amazing guy. But today, like all of us, he's interested in a lot of things. He's really concerned about what's going on in the Bundy Ranch and whether it's starting to happen in Texas, too. You may have seen some news that the Bureau of Land Management has their eyes on the border between Wyoming and Texas. Is it Wyoming? No, not Wyoming. Oklahoma and Texas. And they may be getting involved there. He's really quite concerned about some of the things that
What do you know what the issue there, John, is?
Well, of course, there's the issue, there's the reason and the excuse.
All right. Go for both.
The excuse seems to be that the Bureau of Land Management wants to come in and resolve a border dispute between the states that has never been completely resolved. And the Bureau of Land Management is taking it upon themselves to get involved and decide some things like that. The concern is that that's the excuse, and it's really just a land grab. And this involves people who have the deed to their land. This is not people who are grazing on, federal or state land or whatever the dispute is about. And so people are concerned that this is part of an attitudinal problem going on with the Obama administration under Harry Reid's, his son? No, at BLM, it's his former staff member who is running the Bureau of Land Management, and not being terribly diplomatic about it. It seems, as we're going along. So, great show. Let people know that we're going to have that. It's going to be very good.
All right. So, John, we got about 4 minutes before we have to go into our next break. What else is going on?
All right. Well, first of all, to back up on the Filipinos, they're against these are left-wing protesters who are against the United States having a security pact with the Philippines, which they believe will have a greater military presence in the Philippines. That's why they're protesting Obama. But don't forget that Obama was going to make everybody love us. That the only reason there was conflict in the world is because Bush is evil. And Obama's going to come along and say, I'm one of you, I love you, and everybody's going to just sort of get along. And I don't know why the left is incapable of learning that doesn't work. We've seen it again and again. It does work in personal relationships when, if someone does not have an agenda against you, you can sometimes say, look, I'm not against you, and it will calm them down. When someone has an agenda to get something, they don't care whether you make these gestures or not. They're going to pursue their agenda. And these nations have agendas that are contrary and hostile to the United States. So just because Obama is president doesn't mean that everybody now loves us suddenly.
Hey, John, there's an article up on CNN World. Obama aims to reassure Asia allies, so he's making this trip, okay? Well, John, if you were one of our allies, how would you be reassured by Barack Obama coming to your town and lying to your face, or actually defending our allies that we've already made pledges to, that we've turned our backs on?
In all honesty, if I were one of our allies, I'd probably want him to stay away and not remind people of the bad things like that. But there's been a lot of talk I've seen in different places, excellent analysis about how Obama really believes that the power of his oratory, is leadership. That he really thinks that if all he's doing is just getting up and talking, that really matters. And so in his mind, if he goes there and gives great speeches, he really thinks he's accomplished something.
Well, that's what these liberals do, John. They think that their words will solve every problem. Doesn't take actions, doesn't take deeds. All they have to do is use words or supposedly say the right things to make everything better. And it's a crock. It's a crock of crap, John.
Well, it's sort of people who've never really accomplished anything in the real world, so they don't understand what it takes.
That's true. That's true. This is a guy that's never even run a candy station, a candy store or a gas station. So
I'd like to see a reality show where we have these liberal Democrats have to start a business, and
yes.
I don't know how. Of course, they're famous, so that wouldn't be totally a realistic situation, but if you could make them have to go through what real people go through.
Well, John, we're about 1 minute to our next break, but George McGovern started an inn or a restaurant in Connecticut, and after a few years had to shut it down, and he blamed government regulations for the closure of his inn. I'll have to. That Daria Novak is listening. Daria, I think you're the one that told me about George McGovern's inn up in Connecticut. Send me a link to that. I got to call Daria during the break and find out about that. But that's a typical example right there, John.
We could do a whole segment on that. I knew he changed his mind. I didn't know he was shut down by it.
Yes.
That's an excellent example.
Yeah, you know what? Let's take the break now, and I'm going to call Daria, and I'm going to see if maybe she can't come on and tell the story, all right?
All right.
All right, you're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader. Coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet via our internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And remember, now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos radio show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. No extra charges for this call. Please don't go away. John and I will be right back.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today is for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
Hello, I'm Reverend Carl Kelly, and I head up the Frederick Douglass Foundation of Indiana. President Obama's attacks on the Constitution continues to be aided and abetted by one of his trusted allies in Congress, ultra-liberal Democrat Andre Carson of Indianapolis, nationally known for his infamous racial rants against the Tea Party. I want to tell you about J.D. Manier. J.D. will be a representative for the people of the 7th District. J.D. Manier is a pro-growth Reagan conservative and is co-host of the Conservative Commandos Radio show. He is asking you to join his army of supporters in order to defeat Carson and go to Washington to demand special prosecutors for Benghazi, the IRS, and other scandals. JD is interested in what's good for the people of the 7th District, not Nancy Pelosi. He will promote strong economic growth and jobs by getting the government off the backs of the people, voting for tax cuts and slashing regulations. Help elect a pro-life defender of freedom who will strongly support Israel, vote to cut wasteful spending, and battle to repeal Obama's socialist agenda. Log on to MinierForCongress.com and donate today. That's MINIEAR for Congress.com. Paid for and authorized by the J.D. Minier for Congress Committee.
I'm J.D. Minier, candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives, Indiana District 7, and I approve of this message.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Schrader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, try patriotsride.org. That's patriotsride.org at 10:10 this evening. I love Zeta Andrews. Sometimes she plays her shows at 10 o'clock, and sometimes she don't, but you can give it a try there. But if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 5 this afternoon Eastern Time, when we go off the air, if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of yesterday's show, I should say, tune in to CPRWorldwideMedia.com. That's CPRWorldwideMedia.com. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show tomorrow afternoon, place for that is at VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And don't forget, you can listen to the Conservative Commandos radio show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. Don't forget our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioshow.com and CCRShow.com. Two different sites, different information on each one of them. So, Jonathan, during our break, I made a phone call to Daria. She was not the one that told me the story. But I love Google. I was able to Google this, and this was an article that was written in the Wall Street Journal, October 21st, 2012. It was written by George McGovern, and he starts, and I'm not going to read this whole article, but Google it. It says George McGovern in the journal. Title of the article is A Politician's Dream as a Businessman's Nightmare. Okay? Google it. It said, wisdom too often never crones, and so one ought to not reject it merely because it comes late. It's been 11 years since I left the U.S. Senate after serving 24 years in a high public office. After leaving a career in politics, I devoted much of my time to public lectures that took me into every state of the Union and much of Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. In 1988, I invested most of my earnings from my lecture circuit acquiring the leasehold to Connecticut's Stratford Inn hotels, inns, and restaurants have always held a special fascination for me. The Stratford Inn promised the realization of a long-time dream to own a combination hotel, restaurant, and public conference facility, complete with an experienced manager and staff. As I said, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but as McGovern says, for many reasons, his business failed. But I wanted to toggle down to the end where he says, in short, one size fits all rules for business ignore the reality of the marketplace, and setting thresholds for regulatory guidelines at artificial levels, i.e. 50 employees or more than 500,000 in sales, takes no account for other realities such as profit margins, labor-intensive versus capital-intensive businesses, and local market economies. The problem we face as legislators is, where do we set the bar so that it is not too high, too clear? I don't have the answer, but I know that we need to start raising these questions more often. So that was quoting George McGovern, by the way. I guess I should have said that.
Well, now you know, I guess it's not surprising that all of his colleagues don't listen to that. I mean, these are people who obviously revered him as a leader within their party, and also knew him rubbing shoulders in the Senate and in the member of Congress. Mm-hmm. Does it make any impact on them? And obviously not. And why not? Because obviously they're not looking for the truth.
Well, just think of all the government regulations that Barack Obama has signed into law in the past 5 years.
Yeah, when was that article published?
Well, this article, this was a retrospect. This article is October 21st, 2012. And I know
that the story has been out, parts of it were out earlier than that, but in all that time, the Democrats have been busy doing exactly what he said they shouldn't do.
Well, there's your answer. They don't listen. They think they've got the right idea, John, and just because it's failed a million times doesn't mean it can't work. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and over again, thinking that it's going to succeed when it just fails miserably.
Right. So. Yeah. That's the, or that there are maybe there are objectives other than success.
John, let me interrupt you for a minute. I'm looking at this, and this was published right after George McGovern died, but this column was actually written in 1992.
Yeah, I thought it was.
It was actually written in 1992. Mm-hmm. A 1992 column on the realities of running a business.
Yeah. So in all that time, not enough Democrats might say, our guy, our hero, had something to tell us, and maybe we should listen. So that's truly amazing. Anyway, let's see. So coming up in the news, there's now news flashing across the Drudge Report news that the RAF has scared away Russian military from approaching the Scottish border. Was believed to be Tupolev 95 spotted off the coast of northeast Scotland, and they were chased off by typhoons.
And we should say, John, these are aircraft.
Oh, I apologize. Yeah, that would help.
Yeah,
that would clarify things a good bit.
But I think that Russian plane you were referring to was a heavy bomber.
Yes, there's a picture of it up on the link from there. And now at the same time, this is off of this is news.sky.com. Sky is the British equivalent of Fox News, and I think they're Sky TV. So this is on the Sky TV website there, and it also happens to be a similar thing happening that the Dutch have scrambled. Let me get this up here. That the NATO planes from the Dutch are also scaring. I'm not getting. This is on myfoxdc.com. My computer's freezing up.
Well, John, it's very reminiscent of what happened or what would happen during the years of the Soviet Union. Russia used to fly Bear bombers right off our coast. Mm-hmm. And I actually spoke with some pilots that at the time were in the Air National Guard, and they were scrambled to escort these Bear bombers as they flew up and down the coast right off our borders. So this is very reminiscent of what went on during the days of the Soviet Union. And of course, Vladimir Putin says one of the greatest disasters of all time was the demise of the Soviet Union, and his actions in Georgia and the Ukraine. In my opinion, he's trying to reassemble it. So why wouldn't he have his aircraft fly missions off the coast of Scotland, Great Britain, Holland, even the United States again?
And all the people that were running things in the Soviet Union, they didn't go. There's some time. A couple decades have passed, but they're still there. So they're now populating all those institutions again, and behaving that way. But there's also the potential of mind games here. We send.
Hey, John, just hold that mind game thought because we're up against the break, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
All right, we are going to take a break right now. You're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:10 p.m., providing Zeta Andrews presses the right button, you can hear a rebroadcast of our show at patriotsride.org. That's patriotsride.org. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of yesterday's show at 5 p.m. Eastern when we go off the air, please log on to cprworldwidemedia.com. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show tomorrow afternoon, place for that is at vigilantlibertyradio.us. And don't forget, you can now listen to the Conservative Commandos radio show anytime, day or night, from your telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Be right back.
Day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the Sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, like we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Sometimes on Wednesday we start our show at 2, like we did today. You can also hear us on our broadcast partners, cprworldwidemedia.com, patriotsride.org, vigilantliberty.us. And you can also listen to the Conservative Commandos radio show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. There's no extra toll. There's no extra charge for this call, so use your cell phone and use those mobile minutes. So, John, sorry I had to interrupt you, but before the break you were saying?
Yeah, if anyone wants to speak, they usually have to interrupt me. But the Dutch were scrambled against two bear. Where is this? Two. It was right here. Two Tu-95 Bears.
Bear bombers, yes.
Bear bombers, and they launched NATO F-16s owned by the Dutch, and to repel them. What I was saying was that there's a bit of a mind game. You know, we send the U.S. military over to find wives in Poland and to maybe play. I guess maybe play some soccer and go through the fields and pick flowers and everything. And so Putin may be saying, "Oh yeah, I'm not intimidated here." So he's probing NATO airspace with
testing.
Russian.
It's testing their response, John.
And also saying that just because I'm not the Soviet Union doesn't mean my planes don't fly, because there was some talk about that, about the deterioration of the Russian military and capability.
Yeah, well, those stories I think go back to the 1990s, John. Mm-hmm. Russia has had an influx of oil, petroleum dollars that they're using to rebuild that military that was rusting away and withering away. This is... People think that Russia's Soviet Union went away. It may have had a little bit of a lull there, but it's on the rebound.
Well, it certainly did. There was a time when Soviet ships were trapped in foreign ports without the money to pay for oil to come home. Were rusting in foreign ports and were rusting in their own ports, and that was certainly true for a time. So I think that Obama might be saying, "Don't kid yourself." And he may probably having, he's sort of like the guy in high school who is, picking on the dweeb. I think his view of Obama is that Obama is the well, I don't want to stigmatize any American high school students, but he's the dweeb, he's the nerd, and I think Obama. I think Putin would do it just for the fun of it, even if it wasn't necessary. Just to tweak him.
Probably
Anyway,
not. Yeah. All right, we'll send our bride hunting military over the Poland, and you send your bear bombers back at us.
Well, the thing is, there's certainly we have a lot of troops at the border, or a lot of agents at the border, but they're not. That doesn't mean they're tasked to actually do anything except just stand around. That's part of a problem. Is we increased the personnel at our border, but we didn't give them the orders or authority to do anything. So anyway, so that's a very, very great concern about some of that. Anyway, so let's see what I was going to go on to something here. Are you seeing? Have you had any complaints there in New Jersey with anyway. Now, I did want to point out that there's a couple things here I want to save for the next half hour. That's why I'm hesitating a moment.
Well, John, if you're in a lull, let me talk about something I talked about yesterday also.
I'm ready, but go ahead.
Oh, this is... John, we all the time talk about how words are used. And you got to be careful because, for instance, when they pass a bill in Congress, like the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, it's just the opposite. You know what I mean? And there are also groups out there like Conservatives for Immigration Reform that actually they use the word conservative in their title, but what the group stands for is not a conservative idea, and that is immigration amnesty, okay? Well, there's another group out there, John. It's Americans for Limited Government. Americans for Limited Government, okay? And this was from an email press release I received yesterday, people requesting to have their spokespeople come on the show. And let me just read this to you because I think you'll get a kick out of it, Jonathan Mosley. Relief may be coming soon for small and medium Main Street businesses as Congress looks at leveling the playing field for them with online retailers, said Eric Cantor last week. There is the question of what to do for local businesses that have invested in bricks and mortar versus online ones. How do we do that in a constitutional way to level the playing field, says Utah Congressman Jason Chavez, who has taken a leadership role as conservatives realize this initiative can A, help small businesses, and B, provide governors with the opportunity to cut other taxes, including income taxes. Cantor said one way may be to include it in the reauthorization of the Internet Tax Non-Discrimination Act, which is set to expire later this year. Americans for Limited Government supports these efforts to close the sales tax loophole that hurts small businesses and levels that playing field. Jonathan Mosley, another crock of crap. Okay? So here you got Eric Cantor and Jason Chavitz, who's probably taking campaign contributions from businesses, from brick-and-mortar businesses that want to impose sales taxes on internet purchases. Now, this is from a group called Americans for Limited Government, but let me tell you what putting sales tax on internet purchases would do. Let's say, Jonathan, you're in a small business, and you're selling your goods over the internet. Now, you would be responsible to make sure that you collect sales tax from every person you sell anything to, no matter where they live, which means that you, Jonathan Mosley, then become a tax collecting authority for 5,600 state, county, and municipalities. Okay? And this is Americans for Limited Government that is promoting this. And another thing, Jonathan Mosley, it has in here, if this will provide governors with the opportunity to cut other taxes, including sales taxes. Are you kidding me? Politicians don't cut taxes when they get a new revenue stream.
The opportunity, but not the promise, obviously.
So anyway, people out there, listeners out there, be careful when you hear these organizations with these titles like Conservatives for Immigration Reform or Americans for Limited Government. It's just the opposite. These are politicians for expanding government and taking more of your tax money.
Well, a similar issue on that is I have an email here I was looking at for planning the show. Again, we have this PR group that is, and I don't know if I should name them, that is pushing the side of the Common Core education standards. They're wonderful, and we could have a guest here on the radio show, Dr. Campo, telling us why Common Core is wonderful.
The way I fall on that, John, the same reason that I will not have anybody from Americans for Limited Government, okay, is why give them a voice?
Right.
You know, why should we work and contribute the way we do to produce this show to give liberals a voice?
Well, especially if they're deceiving us.
In my opinion, this is deceptive. Americans for Limited Government, they want new taxes. They want new sales taxes on internet purchases.
Yep.
You know, these businesses, these brick and mortar businesses, many of them also do internet sales, okay? But what this is these are groups of businessmen that get together that pay campaign contributions to people like Eric Cantor and Jason Chavitz for them to introduce laws for new tax streams. And it cracks me up when they say it provides governors with the opportunity to cut taxes. And they're not going to cut taxes. No way. They're going to say, oh, now we got, look, another revenue stream. Well, we can do this and we can do that.
And part of the trick is they're not even promising that the taxes are going to cut. They're saying you got to.
Do you ever see taxes cut, Jonathan? When was the last time you saw taxes cut?
But they're not even claiming that they're going to cut taxes. They're just saying it gives them the opportunity. You know, just maybe the taxes will be cut.
Yeah. You know, we're going to get into this a little bit later with our guest from the American Petroleum Institute, their Pennsylvania representative. There's we're going to have to go to a break in a minute or so, Jonathan. But there's a couple of guys running for governor in Pennsylvania that are out there with the idea that we have to tax the gas and oil drillers in Pennsylvania. And, oh, yeah, we can use that money to keep our schools open and clean our environment. And we're going to make the big oil companies pay. The oil companies don't pay. The oil companies collect the money from the consumer. It's another crock of crap.
So you're going to name names?
I'm going to name names. Yeah, I'll name them right now. One is that Tom Wolf. He's trying to get the other is Rob McCord. They're trying to get the Democrat nomination to run against Tom Corbett in Pennsylvania. Hey, with that, John, we're going to wrap it up because we're coming up on another break here. But you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show. Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader coming to you live from the CCRS studios. That of WNJC 1360 and around the world on the internet. Via our internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And don't forget, you can hear our show anytime, day or night by calling 832-999-1199. No extra charge for the call. Don't go away. Jonathan and I will be right back.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery. A world away, the Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hello, I'm Reverend Carl Kelly, and I head up the Frederick Douglass Foundation of Indiana. President Obama's attacks on the Constitution continues to be aided and abetted by one of his trusted allies in Congress, ultra-liberal Democrat Andre Caution of Indianapolis, nationally known for his infamous racial rants against the Tea Party. I want to tell you about J.D. Manier. J.D. will be a representative for the people of the 7th District. J.D. Manier is a pro-growth Reagan conservative and is co-host of the Conservative Commandos Radio show. He is asking you to join his army of supporters in order to defeat Carson and go to Washington to demand special prosecutors for Benghazi, the IRS, and other scandals. JD is interested in what's good for the people of the 7th District, not Nancy Pelosi. He will promote strong economic growth and jobs by getting the government off the backs of the people, voting for tax cuts and slashing regulations. Help elect a pro-life defender of freedom who will strongly support Israel, vote to cut wasteful spending, and battle to repeal Obama's socialist agenda. Log on to MinierForCongress.com and donate today. That's MINIEAR for Congress.com. Paid for and authorized by the J.D. Minier for Congress Committee.
I'm J.D. Minier, candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives, Indiana District 7, and I approve of this message.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360 and WIFI 1460. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome, everybody, and welcome, fellow patriots. Welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, like we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m., and around the world on the internet via our internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And joining me today as my co-host, as he usually does on Wednesday afternoons, is Jonathan Mosley. John, welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me on again.
Great to have you with us, John. Great to have you with us. And, you know, starting our show, John, we start out with that Jimi Hendrix music, All Along the Lonely Watchtower. And just last night on Pawn Stars, okay, that runs on the History Channel, I believe, Pawn Stars.
That's Pawn, not something else.
Pawn Stars, right.
Pawn, okay.
Right, Pawn Stars. And they had a Jimi Hendrix guitar on there that was owned and played by Jimi Hendrix, and it was valued at $1 million.
Wow.
$1 million. So anyway, a little bit of trivia there.
Of course, you know, I don't know, most, you know, in fact, I'm sitting right now in a chair that is engraved from Georgetown University with William Jefferson Clinton's name in it. And we thought that it had been formerly owned by it, and we tried to sell it. Nobody cares. Nobody wants. You know, it's a graphic.
Well, he's no Jimi Hendrix.
If I had Jimi Hendrix, yeah, who knows? It might be
$1 million. It was $1 million. It wasn't signed, but it was authenticated that Jimi Hendrix used and played it, and they mentioned some studio records that he cut playing that guitar, but they put a value on it of $1 million.
Yep.
That would finance a lot of airtime. That would.
But the junk, you know, why don't we see the thing? I love that show and shows like it, but you know how often, even the Antique Roadshow, but how often do they bring something in there and they say, "Nah, 25 cents," you know? Anyway, John, we got a great show lined up for our listeners today. Why don't we run down our guest? It's great. At 3:30 p.m., we're going to have Stephanie Caterino Weissman from the Associated Petroleum Industries of Pennsylvania. And they have a new poll out, but this is very important in terms of all the political discussions and debates that are going on. It's amazing how out of touch Democratic leaders are and environmental groups are, and what we're going to find out, and keep thinking, contrast this with all the political debates and all the nonsense we're hearing. Some very encouraging news, I think, especially for Pennsylvania. Citizens listening here on WNJC 1360 from Philadelphia, but also nationwide in terms of the debates that are going on. And 4 o'clock p.m., we're going to be hopefully even more encouraged with Ralph Reed, who's got his new book out, Awakening. And as we like to do here, I think on the Conservative Commandos radio show, is not just talk about issues, but also talk about what can we do, how to.
Mm-hmm.
Is there, he speaks about, excuse me, I'm coughing here a bit. He's speaking about, yes, we can turn America around, even though it looks bleak, and he's got some specifics on how to do that. And so it's both informative, I think, awakening us again to the danger, but also talking about an American Great Awakening again and how we can move forward. So we'll be very honored to have Ralph Reed on at 4 p.m. Eastern. We're going to round it out at 4:30 p.m. with Stephen Broden from Texas, Constitutional Defenders of Texas. Guy, I'm just getting to know what an amazing breadth of experience he has as a former candidate for Congress in 2010. He's part of the Black pro-life movement in Dallas, helping to educate African-American pastors on a conservative and a truly Christian point of view on America's culture war. And he's been honored by the NRCC, National Republican Campaign Committee, for his work in the business community. He's a businessman. He's going to talk about, he could talk about any of those things, but today he's going to talk about the Bundy, what is the right word, uprising, the
standoff?
Yes, it's anything, but they're worried about it's coming to Texas, too.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of going on there. So he's going to talk about that, the abuse from his group, the Constitutional Defenders of Texas, and also talking about the danger this could be spreading. So there we go. Now, if I have a little time, I could jump in on some things here before, because we will wander, we'll meander, you and me. Ex-Justice Stevens has an amazing effort out there right now, and you have to hear about this. A lot of this nonsense, you think, oh yeah, that's just typical liberal nonsense. But to me, when I'm reading this, what amazes me is that this retired Justice Stevens from the U.S. Supreme Court, think about this guy, this, nut, being in the Supreme Court deliberations and making actual decisions that affect us and what's going on up there in the Supreme Court. He's saying that he's saying all kinds of things, like the founders of our country didn't believe in an individual Second Amendment right. And he's got a bunch of proposals, sort of counters to Mark Levin, and this is why people like Phyllis Schlafly warn us of a constitutional convention that could get out of control. He wants to amend the Constitution. He wants to change the Second Amendment from what it says now, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. He wants to change it to say, the right of the people to keep and bear arms when serving in the militia shall not be infringed. Now, wait a minute. Hold on a second. Think about that. If you're serving in the militia, why would the right to keep and bear arms ever be infringed? If the government is organizing you to be in the militia, they're not going to infringe the militia. It's stupid beyond belief. But the idea, and it really brought home to me this whole argument that the first sentence, the first clause of the Second Amendment limits to the second, how stupid it is, because if the militia is in the service of the government, they're not in any danger of having their guns limited while serving in the militia. And so this is just lunacy. But he has a whole bunch of other left-wing amendments he wants to make, because I guess, remember, who was it? Was it Hillary Clinton who was talking to Eleanor Roosevelt in the halls of the White House? Am I remembering that wrong?
I believe it was. And then, of course, you had the liberals that was blasting Nancy Reagan because she consulted a psychic, but Hillary Clinton talking with Eleanor Roosevelt in the halls of the White House, that was a good thing.
we need to remember that as we head into 2016. Well, apparently, Justice Stevens has been talking to those who wrote the Constitution, the founders, because he's saying they didn't mean what they said. What do you mean? And this, of course, is the guy who is deciding precedents in the U.S. Supreme Court. So I'd like to think that has nothing to do with what's going on there now, but I don't know if I'm confident of that. Maybe you're more confident of that than I am. So who knows? Because the problem is that judges and justices, although we're supposed to honor them, are people. They are human beings. They're not robots. They're people from another galaxy. And there has been an effort to indoctrinate the law schools with left-wing lunacy for decades. And some people escape without being infected, but some people don't.
Oh, actually, John, you were mentioning Hillary Clinton and Eleanor Roosevelt, and I Googled it, and actually, apparently, there was a seance. Hillary Clinton held seances in the White House.
Oh, my God, no, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, well, I don't know what this site is, sayanythingblog.com, but, apparently, according to this blog, and I don't know this blog, and I really don't like to... Bill Maher released this clip of Senate candidate Christina O'Donnell saying that she dabbled in witchcraft when she was younger. I'm not saying it was a big deal. I'm trying to find where it talks about. Okay, Hillary Clinton says imaginary talks just intellectual exercise. Hillary Rodham Clinton said her imaginary conversations with Eleanor Roosevelt were merely an intellectual exercise, trying to douse what she called sensational speculation that the First Lady rejected references that psychic researcher Jean Houston, who led her in several White House sessions, was her spiritual advisor. In a written statement, Mrs. Clinton was firm in her denial that there was any psychic or religious overtones to the sessions. The bottom line is, I have no spiritual advisors or any other alternatives to my deeply held Methodist faith and traditions upon which I have relied on since childhood. Mrs. Clinton met with Houston several times in the late, from late 1994 until March of this year. I'm not sure when this was written. According to a new book by Bob Woodward, says that Houston led the First Lady through imaginary conversations with her hero, Mrs. Roosevelt, and Indian leader Gandhi. Oh, boy. Oh, John, I'm sorry. We're up against the break.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. John Forsyth, Jr., for reminding me about that. John is working the boards today, doing a great job, as he always does. You're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show, coming to you from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, like we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. And now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos radio show at any time, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. There's no charge for this call as long as you use your cell phone or any other phone that you have free long distance. Don't go away. John and I will be right back.
They say I'm nasty, but oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:10 this evening, providing that Zeta Andrews pushes the right button, you could hear us at patriotsride.org. That's patriotsride.org. And for a rebroadcast of yesterday's show at 5 p.m., when we end our live broadcast, log on to cprworldwidemedia.com. And you could also hear a repeat broadcast of today's show tomorrow afternoon by going to vigilantlibertyradio.us. And you can now hear the Conservative Commandos radio show anytime, day or night, any day, by calling 832-1199. Using your cell phone, there's no charge for the call. Use your cell phone minutes. Hey, John, have you called our new line to listen to the show on your phone yet?
I did, yeah. I checked it out. It's amazing.
I think it's amazing, and the quality is fantastic. It's better than having a telephone conversation. It's even better than a lot of radio broadcasts that you would hear on certain radios. No static. I mean, it's really a great service, and we're real proud that we're a part of Audio Now.
Well, and Rick Trader, I mean, that's another example. We went to CPAC.
Yep.
I was introduced by someone to these people, and it's amazing what you can get networking and everything like that. That was just an amazing thing.
Yep. All right. Well, Jonathan Mosey, what else is on your radar screen?
All right. Well, let me. You brought up. I hesitate to do things that are dangerous, but then I do them anyway. So I'm going to talk about a little bit of Christine O'Donnell's campaign from 2020, because today, or I guess last week. No, it's in yesterday's Washington Times. The Internal Revenue Service revoked the tax-exempt status of a conservative charity, the Patrick Henry Center, run by former, I'm so bad with names, Mr. Aldridge, the Gary Aldridge, who was the Secret Service agent who came out and exposed what was going on within the Clintons. The reason is I know, because I came up with the idea and proposed it and did the draft, that a complaint has been filed with the IRS around July 2011, and I just filed another one, how Crew blatantly campaigned in the 2010 election, violated their 501c3 status. No action. IRS doesn't care. The Obama administration doesn't care because liberal organizations go after Republican candidates openly in campaigns. That's okay. Here, however, the IRS has revoked Gary Aldridge's 501c3 status because he just talked about Hillary Clinton too much in a negative way.
Wow.
She's not even a candidate. There isn't even an election. He's not saying don't vote for her or vote for her. His claim to fame is that he worked for the Clintons in the White House as a Secret Service agent. He wrote a book about it, about what they're like behind closed doors. This is part of what's going on with the IRS and the new rules, is that what and I don't think anybody is really zeroing in on this, and I'm trying to get somebody in Darrell Iss's office and all these different groups to figure this out. They're scamming us by talking about politics as opposed to campaigning. 501c3s and 501c4s are perfectly allowed to talk about politics, issues, proposals, the way that the government impacts society. That is perfectly legitimate and legal. They're not allowed to intervene in elections and say, vote for this guy, don't vote for that guy, and organize in elections. So here's a guy where he's just discussing the Clintons, and the IRS is calling that invalid, even though he's not actually intervening in an election. But I had a case, it's very hard to convince the reader of how horrible this Crew case is against Christine O'Donnell. Would take a lot of time because there's so much there, point after point after point. It's up on mosleycomments.com, but we had them, smoking gun, dead to rights, that they violated their 501c3 status. But
John, you mentioned Crew. What organization is that? This
is the ironic thing. Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, and they are the most irresponsible and unethical organization in Washington. And when I wrote up the first draft that Cleta Mitchell didn't use, she wrote this confused mishmash that I refiled another version. I used Crew's own complaints. The Crew goes after other organizations of conservatives, saying that their status should be revoked. So I just took their own words and to lay out things like that. But they haven't been dealt with. The other thing I also remind people, we have to remember the difference between a 501c3, which is a very high standard, that is tax deductible, not only tax exempt on donations, but the giver can deduct it from their taxes. That's a very stringent standard, whereas 501c4s are tax exempt, but they're not tax deductible, and you can do a lot more things with 501c4. So this was a 501c3 Crew, and they just blatantly violated the rules and campaigned all over the place. And when asked about why didn't you do this earlier or wait until after the election, specifically talked about wanting to influence voters in the campaign. But you haven't heard any action on that. So we should see if Anna Little should get Christine on here to comment about this. But because I was reading the partly what I should have been paying attention. I was reading the letter from the IRS, which is heavily redacted, strangely. But it's just the hypocrisy is stunning. I mean, just stunning here, and nobody seems. There needs to be no shame. There seems to be no shame. And the other thing I noticed about when I read the actual letter is that they were working on this in August 2011, just issued on April 18th. So they were working on this about the same length of time that they've had the complaint documenting the violations by Crew. They acted against Gary Aldridge, a critic of Hillary Clinton, but not against Crew, a darling of the left.
Interesting. Very interesting. Maybe we could get Gary on. Do you have any contact with him?
It's been a while. I've talked to him before, yeah.
We'll give that a try, John.
As long as, the lawyers don't get involved and say, don't do anything, don't say hello to anybody without talking to me, but we could give it a try.
Yeah, well, invite his lawyer on, too. After all, they can make a fee, right?
All right, there you go. Yeah. So anyway, that's what is upsetting me right now. That's what I was.
It should upset any fair American.
but we've lost, it's like we've lost any sense of shame,
No, we haven't. The Democrats and the liberals don't have any sense of shame.
It's just amazing.
It is.
Now, I guess we only got a few more. We've got about a minute or so. And
I think we got less than that, actually. We've got about 5 seconds before we have to take our break, John.
Can we fill up 5 seconds?
5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go. All right, John, we are going to take a break right now. You're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia, like we do each day, Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. That's Eastern Time. And, of course, around the world on the Internet via our Internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And don't forget, check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioShow.com and CCRShow.com. Today's show is brought to you by the First Amendment, protected by the Second. Be right back.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
Hello, I'm Reverend Carl Kelly, and I head up the Frederick Douglass Foundation of Indiana. President Obama's attacks on the Constitution continues to be aided and abetted by one of his trusted allies in Congress, ultra-liberal Democrat Andre Caution of Indianapolis, nationally known for his infamous racial rants against the Tea Party. I want to tell you about J.D. Manier. J.D. will be a representative for the people of the 7th District. J.D. Manier is a pro-growth Reagan conservative and is co-host of the Conservative Commandos radio show. He is asking you to join his army of supporters in order to defeat Carson and go to Washington to demand special prosecutors for Benghazi, the IRS, and other scandals. JD is interested in what's good for the people of the 7th District, not Nancy Pelosi. He will promote strong economic growth and jobs by getting the government off the backs of the people, voting for tax cuts and slashing regulations. Help elect a pro-life defender of freedom who will strongly support Israel, vote to cut wasteful spending, and battle to repeal Obama's socialist agenda. Log on to MinierForCongress.com and donate today. That's MINIEAR for Congress.com. Paid for and authorized by the J.D. Minier for Congress Committee.
I'm J.D. Minier, candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives, Indiana District 7, and I approve of this message.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia, our flagship station, as we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. and around the world on the internet via our internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And with that, Jonathan Mosley, we do have our first guest of the day with us. Will you please make the introduction?
Yes, Stephanie Caterino Weissman is Executive Director of the Associated Petroleum Industries of Pennsylvania. Prior to joining API-PA in 2011, Stephanie was the Director of Government Affairs for the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, which is the largest broad-based business advocacy association in Pennsylvania. She has also served as Manager of Government Affairs for Embark, a global integrated communications provider. Weissman is a graduate of Penn State University and resides in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. Welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show, broadcasting near Philadelphia here on WNJC 1360. Welcome, Stephanie Weissman.
Thank you, John and Rick. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm so glad you could join us here. In addition to doing a great many things, at the moment you have an interesting press release out, and it would please some of my former bosses. You very concisely packed a great deal of information in here, and I want to make sure we don't miss any of it. So you have just surveyed the state of Pennsylvania on some of the controversial energy issues going on right now. Tell us about the survey to begin with.
Sure, happy to do that, Jonathan. Yes, during the dates of April 3rd through 9th, Harris conducted a poll on behalf of the American Petroleum Institute to gauge what America is thinking on energy issues. And what the poll found is that large majorities of Pennsylvania voters support investments in oil and natural gas. And there were 603 registered voters that participated in the poll. And what we're finding across the board is that it doesn't matter, if you're Republican, if you're Democrat, it doesn't matter. I mean, this poll is showing strong majorities of Pennsylvania voters that do support the oil and natural gas industry, in particular, not just the industry itself, but the infrastructure that is needed to get this resource to market and consumed by the American consumers.
Yeah, and I think, first of all, it's good in the days of internet polls and everything like that, it's good to point out that this is a professional polling firm that did this, not just something you did yourself.
That's right, a professional poll, and it was done via phone.
And, well, of course, that's normal, yes. But what's interesting is, first of all, this is registered voters, so that's important in terms of how this drives some of our discussion and perception of these political issues. But I was surprised to see that in an era where our leaders in Washington can't seem to get along on some of these issues, but that's not what you found in terms of the actual voters. the agreement across party.
That's right. That's exactly right. I mean, just to give you a sampling of the numbers here, this poll found, the Harris poll found that 94% of registered Pennsylvania voters agree that increased development of the country's energy infrastructure will help create jobs in the United States. So not only is there a recognition of what kind of job creation is linked to this industry, but also what it means to our overall goal as a country to become energy secure, and what it means that energy infrastructure is good for American consumers, and that oil and natural gas resources could help stimulate the economy. I mean, we're looking at overwhelming percentages here, 94%, 90% regarding the stimulation of the economy question, and then 86% of Pennsylvanians saying that the development of the country's energy infrastructure is good for American consumers. So very, very strong, favorable numbers.
And among some communities, like probably the listeners to this show, most of them, this seems like obvious common sense. But what's interesting to me is that it's very widely held, and I think that's very interesting and interesting in terms of what's going on political, and also encouraging. But you'd think that would just be, well, we live in a time when common sense doesn't seem to be very common. So you didn't find any support out there for the idea that we should de-emphasize these energy sources and all that sort of thinking?
We did not, no.
That's very interesting. Now, this is part of, I gather you are leading Pennsylvania, but I think I see from your website that there are similar efforts around the country to find out how different communities are feeling about this. Is that right?
That is correct, yes. Not only did API, through the Harris poll, conduct a national poll survey in regard to what Americans are thinking on energy issues, but there were also state-specific polling done in a handful of states, including Pennsylvania. So the results that I just relayed to you are specific to Pennsylvania. However, as an example, I know we did polling in New Hampshire, Maryland, Ohio, New York, as an example, North Carolina, North Dakota, Colorado.
Now, of course, it may be obvious, but put this in context a bit in terms of some of the issues that are of concern in Pennsylvania, why this may be important for voters and lawmakers to consider in Pennsylvania.
Absolutely. I mean, this is something, it's an election year. It's a critical election year, and I think that elected officials need to know where their constituents are on the issue of energy development and energy infrastructure. How important it is. I mean, energy is something that we as Americans rely on every day in every facet of what we do, and it is critical that we have reliable and affordable access to energy. And having these resources beneath our feet in this country really is a blessing, and this is something that we can do, have done, and will continue to do industry safely and responsibly.
Well, do you think that in Pennsylvania the fracking controversy, for example, is that still in play? There's still a threat, or is that sort of a settled issue? And I guess well,
in my mind, it's a settled issue. But, of course, there are those that probably don't feel that it is a settled issue. But I would say a misnomer that's out there is that hydraulic fracturing, which, of course, is the technique, one of two techniques used to release the natural gas or oil, whatever you're talking about, from the shale formation, is a new technology, when, in fact, hydraulic fracturing has been around for 65 years. The technique actually celebrated a birthday on March 17th. The 65th birthday of the first commercial hydraulic fracturing job that took place in Oklahoma. So it's very interesting. But because of technological advancements and industry innovation, when you have horizontal drilling coupled with hydraulic fracturing, is the reason why America is experiencing an energy revolution or renaissance.
Well, that is very interesting. I didn't know that, and of course, part of it is just when we get around to actually, if we listened to all the doom and gloom, we wouldn't be looking. We need the enthusiasm and optimism to be looking at that. I think we're up about on a break here now. Can you hold through for about 2 minutes through a break?
Yes, thank you.
All right, well, we'll be right back on the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader, and your guest now our co-host, John Mosley, and our guest, Stephanie Weissman.
All right, and if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of our show at 10:10 this evening, please log on to patriotsride.org. That's patriotsride.org. At 5 p.m. when we end our live broadcast, you can hear a replay of yesterday's show at cprworldwidemedia.com. And don't forget, now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. John and I will be right back with our guest, Stephanie Weissman.
They say I'm nasty, but oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia, our flagship station, and around the world on the internet. Our guest this segment is Stephanie Weissman. She's with the Associated Petroleum Industries of Pennsylvania. Stephanie, thanks for holding through the break. We appreciate your time.
You're very welcome.
Well, Stephanie, you live in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, in a little town, a beautiful little town I'm familiar with. My ex-wife, her grandmother and grandfather used to live there, and I know it's a beautiful little town. But here in the shadow of Philadelphia, Stephanie, we are hearing the political campaigns are starting up. And there's a couple of people that are running for the Democrat nomination to run against Tom Corbett, Tom Wolf, and Rob McCord. Now, both of these individuals seem to be selling a very similar message of let's tax those big bad oil and gas companies, and we can take this money and we can fund our schools forever. Stephanie, who does big oil and gas companies, do they pay the taxes, or do they just collect the tax from all of us consumers?
Well, of course they're paying the taxes. Absolutely. There's no question about that. As a matter of fact, the oil and natural gas industry since 2007, and why I referenced the year 2007 is the year that the Marcellus Shale production started in earnest. Mm-hmm. But since 2007, $2.1 billion, that's billion with a B, has been paid to the Department of Revenue here in Pennsylvania, and that is directly attributable to oil and natural gas activity since 2007. So that includes your corporate net income tax, your sales tax, your personal income tax, all of the business taxes that any business pays. Our companies are paying as well, so there is no difference there.
Well, they are paying their taxes, but where do they get their this tax money from is where I'm coming from. They get it from their customers. Am I correct in that?
Oh, ultimately, sure.
So,
ultimately,
so
yes.
when Rob McCord wants to put in another 10% tax on the gas and oil that's coming out of Pennsylvania, who ultimately is going to pay that 10% tax?
Ultimately, it will be you and I.
There you go. Now, then we got Tom Wolf, who's also one of the candidates. He's also trying to get the Democrat nomination to run for governor. And he has a very similar message. And what he's promising is that he's going to, again, tax the gas and oil companies, and this is going to fund the schools. And again, Stephanie, I got to ask you the question. I hate to be redundant and sound stupid, but ultimately, who's paying that price? Who's going to pay those additional taxes?
And again, it's us. It is the consumers of Pennsylvania.
Well, you know, your survey really pointed out how popular gas and oil exploration is in the state of Pennsylvania and around the country. I know that in Pennsylvania that this has saved family farms. Could you talk a little bit about that, Stephanie?
Sure, it absolutely has. Obviously, when companies come into Pennsylvania to drill for the natural gas, using Pennsylvania as an example, they need access to that resource, obviously. So the companies do approach the landowners, the mineral owners of that particular plot of land that has the natural gas beneath it, and then a lease is negotiated between the landowner and the company on exactly what kind of lease payments will be realized, royalty payments, bonus payments, things of that nature. So because of that, you have, like, as an example, a family farmer maybe that was on the brink of going bankrupt and losing the farm, having this new infused income because of natural gas exploration that is enabling them to upgrade, to modernize their farm facilities and actually stay in business and actually thrive. And that's just, one of many examples that you'll see throughout the Commonwealth.
Stephanie, I'm on Rob McCord's website right now, and one of his issues is prohibit any further leasing of state lands for drilling. How do you think that's going to affect the people of Pennsylvania?
Yes, well, right now there is a moratorium on any new drilling in state forests in Pennsylvania. That is a current executive order that was signed by previous Governor Ed Rendell. But there obviously is drilling that is taking place before that was that were grandfathered in prior to that executive. And so that is happening right now. So I know that Governor Corbett, in conjunction with his proposed budget, is proposing that drilling can occur on current land that is being developed because of hydraulic fracturing and because of horizontal drilling. The advancements in technology, obviously you are able to reach these resources from not too far away. So you can drill further without disturbing any additional acreage in the state forest land. So, so just to be clear, there is a moratorium on any new drilling in Pennsylvania on state forest lands.
Well, Stephanie, as you were saying earlier, that hydraulic fracturing is safe, but if you read Rob McCord's website here, you would think it's very hazardous. He has banned any discharge of drilling wastewater into Pennsylvania's rivers and streams that is not treated by the standards of the Safe Drinking Water Act. Stephanie, is there wastewater that's being pumped into the streams and rivers of Pennsylvania now?
There shouldn't be. No, there should not be at all. Now, this is what I will tell you, and without getting too technical, I don't want to do that to you or your listeners here, but a few years ago, the Department of Environmental Protection actually tightened their total dissolved solid standard. So basically what that means is that your high salt content is present in wastewater. After the hydraulic fracturing job, you can either reuse it, which almost 100% of the industry is doing now. They're recycling that water to use it on several different well pads for the hydraulic fracturing process. Right. But then at some point in time, you've got to get rid of the wastewater. So there's a couple ways you can do that. One is if you do discharge it back into Pennsylvania's waterways, it must meet a very strict total dissolve standard, okay? And my understanding is that's not being done because it is so stringent that you cannot get to the levels that the regulation is asking for. So then you're left with, okay, now we will probably truck it out of state and use deep well injection. So that's how typically wastewater is ultimately disposed of. So to answer your question, ultimately, is there any reckless behavior going on in that regard? Not that I'm aware of.
Well, Stephanie, since the state of Pennsylvania, or the politicians in the state of Pennsylvania, think that we need new taxes, and since Tom Wolf, who's running to get the Democrat nomination, is in the kitchen cabinet business, I think that your organization, that Associated Petroleum Industries of Pennsylvania, I think you should put out feelers for a new tax in Pennsylvania, and that's a 25% tax on all new kitchen cabinets built in Pennsylvania. How do you think Tom Wolf would like that?
Well, no matter what industry you're talking about here, I mean, raising taxes is never a good idea on industries because, as you said earlier, ultimately it's the end user that will be the one paying for it.
Well, what I'm getting at, Stephanie, don't you think a tax like that would hurt cabinet manufacturing in Pennsylvania and any new taxes on the gas and oil industry? As you say, there's a boom. It's improving the economy. It's producing jobs. You go taxing things more, and it's just going to hurt the gas and oil industry.
Well, sure, and I use the word misguided when I've talked to other people about this issue because that's truly what it is. It's a misguided severance tax proposal because it could strangle production, it could undermine Pennsylvania's competitive position, and threaten our bright economic future. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, some critics say the gas is in the ground, industry's not going to go anywhere. But I can tell you this, there are other shale plays throughout the country. The Marcellus Shale is not the only shale play in this country. You've got the Utica Shale as an example. You have the Bakken, which is in North Dakota, Montana. You've got the Eagle Ford, the Haynesville, as just a few other examples, the Barnett and the Woodford, and even the Antrim play in Michigan. So companies will take a look at the other areas, the other shale plays, and if it doesn't make economic sense to bring the natural gas out of the ground, companies won't do it. Simple as that. They will go elsewhere.
Yeah, people I think may have a hard time understanding that. And I could go into that, but I want to cover some of the other things too here. This is John Mosley back again on the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with our guest, Stephanie Withman. Your press release talks about some of the next steps for the American Petroleum Institute and the American Petroleum Institute of Pennsylvania. You talked about some things you're going to be doing on social media and advertising and getting the word out. What's going on there?
Sure. Yes, in conjunction with the poll results that we just released, we're going to be unveiling as part of our campaign called Faces of Energy. And basically that is going to be American citizens, talking about what energy means to them and why they choose energy, why they support the build-out of additional energy infrastructure, why they support job growth that results from the expansion of oil and natural gas development in this country, and jobs, just the job creation that comes out of this. So that'll be something to look out for, social media, advertising, and it'll be under the slogan of Faces of Energy.
Yeah, and I think very much needed. I was just watching on C-SPAN over the weekend, I think it was, about them talking about how, talking about this issue about how they want to subsidize others and go after what they think are subsidies to the industry, which I really want to figure out and explore. Your press release talks about how many jobs the industry supports. I found that amazing. Do you remember that?
Yes. 9.8 million jobs are supported by the oil and natural gas industry in this country.
Astonishing. Near this radio station in Philadelphia, the state of Delaware, I think, has about 1 million people, the entire state. And,
right.
And you have so that the industry supports 10 times. I mean, that's bigger than a lot of states.
It sure is. Yeah, absolutely. And even to add to that, what kind of money that our industry is generating to the federal coffers. Our industry generates $85 million a day to the federal government in taxes, rents, royalties, and bonus payments. So, I mean, that's nothing to shy away from. That's for sure.
Something for people to think about. Well, we're running out of time here, so very quickly, can you just tell us how people can follow you and get more information about this? And then we gotta go.
Absolutely. Your listeners can go online to our website, which is www.api.org.
That's great. Well, thank you very much for being with us on behalf of the Pennsylvania Division and Stephanie Wisman. And we've been learning a great deal. We're watching what's going on there. Talk to you later.
Thank you, John and Rick, for the opportunity.
All right, John, we're going to take a little break right now. You're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, where we broadcast live from 3 to 5 p.m. East Coast time, Monday through Friday, and around the world on the internet. And don't forget, now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos radio show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. No extra charge for the call. Don't go away. John and I will be right back with our next guest, Ralph Reed.
That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
Hello, I'm Reverend Carl Kelly, and I head up the Frederick Douglass Foundation of Indiana. President Obama's attacks on the Constitution continues to be aided and abetted by one of his trusted allies in Congress, ultra-liberal Democrat Andre Carson of Indianapolis, nationally known for his infamous racial rants against the Tea Party. I want to tell you about J.D. Manier. J.D. will be a representative for the people of the 7th District. J.D. Manier is a pro-growth Reagan conservative and is co-host of the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. He is asking you to join his army of supporters in order to defeat Carson and go to Washington to demand special prosecutors for Benghazi, the IRS, and other scandals. J.D. is interested in what's good for the people of the 7th District, not Nancy Pelosi. He will promote strong economic growth and jobs by getting the government off the backs of the people, voting for tax cuts and slashing regulations. Help elect a pro-life defender of freedom who will strongly support Israel, vote to cut wasteful spending, and battle to repeal Obama's socialist agenda. Log on to ManierForCongress.com and donate today. That's MINIEAR for Congress.com. Paid for and authorized by the J.D. Manier for Congress Committee.
I'm J.D. Manier, candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives, Indiana District 7, and I approve of this message.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, fellow patriots. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet. John Mosley, we do have our next guest with us, and the honor of the introduction is yours, so please take it away.
Well, it is a great honor to have Ralph Reed with us. Ralph Reed has been an important leader in the conservative movement for many years, who is probably well known to everyone. He comes to us today also as author with his new book just out, Awakening. Ralph Reed began as a leader in Students for America and then became the founding executive director of the Christian Coalition, created out of Pat Robertson's campaign for president. Ralph Reed is now founder and chairman of the Faith and Freedom Coalition, which is methodically building in depth and breadth and impact. He was a senior advisor to the Bush-Cheney campaigns in both 2000 and 2004, and chairman of the Southeast region for Bush-Cheney 2004. As chairman of the Georgia Republican Party, Ralph Reed led the GOP there to its biggest victory in history, helping to re-elect the first Republican governor and only the third U.S. senator since Reconstruction. Reed is the best-selling author of an editor of 5 books, including his latest novel, The Confirmation, and I think that makes Awakening number 6. Thank you. We're very honored to welcome you to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show, Ralph Reed.
Thanks so much. Good to be with you guys.
That's great. Your book, Awakening, is out now about a month, I think, and what struck me about this is a lot of people, if they're paying attention and thinking in our country, are going through different phases. One is if they're not paying attention at all, they don't get it. But if they are, they're likely to think that they're asking the question: is there hope? Has our country gone too far? Have we gone past the point of no return? And if they're thinking at all about it, they may think, well, I can't do anything about it, or maybe they're thinking nobody can do anything about it, or they're not even thinking about the idea of should anybody do anything about it. And I think some of the materials about your book strike on this contrast between there's a serious problem, but there is hope, and there is a plan. And I think that's what's interesting about your approach. Tell us about, you cover a lot of ground in your book. Tell us about some of that.
Well, I think the main thrust of the book is to ask the question of whether or not America, if you look at its current economic and moral and cultural decline, whether or not that decline is a trend line that is reversible, or are we headed the way like Great Britain or Spain or the Roman Empire to be yet another great power that goes into decline and fall and collapse. And I think if you look at the various signs of American economic, financial, and moral decline, whether it's a $17 trillion national debt, 45% of which has been run up in just the last 5 years, $65 trillion in unfunded liabilities through our entitlement program, Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, and the like, with no ability to pay those beneficiaries, and that bill's going to come due, and it's either going to bankrupt the country or we're going to have to dramatically raise taxes or dramatically scale back benefits. You look at the economy of the last roughly 6 years. As we came out of the Great Recession of 2008, we've had anemic economic growth in the 1 to 2% range. We have the lowest male labor participation rate recorded in modern economic history. And you probably saw the headlines yesterday showing that our middle class is no longer the most affluent in the world, and that's what we're looking at economically. And then you look at what we're looking at morally, where 1 out of every 2 marriages is ending in divorce. There's an ongoing campaign, largely by judicial fiat and by judges deciding for us, to redefine the institution of marriage. 40% of all the children who are born in America this year will be born out of wedlock. 1 out of every 4 to 1 out of every 3 high school graduates is either functionally illiterate. And in New York City, 80% of public high school graduates require remedial courses in college. Now, there is no way a society configured like that can survive. But my message is ultimately one of hope and optimism, because I don't believe that it need perish. I think if we have a spiritual and a moral awakening that begins in our churches, our homes, our families, and our marriages, if we get back to first principles, as we've done during other previous awakenings in our history, America can come back. It's happened before. It can happen again.
Well, you go through a great deal. First of all, I'd say that what you mentioned there, just briefly, if people are not concerned, they're not paying attention. People are not dealing with the question like, is there no hope? They're not really paying attention. But you apparently go through a great deal of history and historical analysis and social analysis in your. And are there times when anybody's done this? They've pulled the airplane out of the dive. Is it possible?
Yeah, it's happened periodically. You could argue episodically and even cyclically. I make the argument in the opening chapter of Awakening that America's history in a spiritual sense, not in a theological sense by any means, kind of mimics the history of Israel, where you have obedience to God's laws and precepts, which leads almost always to untold abundance and affluence as people prosper, as they do the right thing. Those societies prosper. Our society has prospered. That prosperity and abundance leads to pride and self-reliance, which in turn tends to curdle into hedonism and pleasure-seeking and rebellion, which leads to apostasy and ultimately to judgment. And judgment and punishment then leads back to another awakening, and you sort of start the cycle over again. And that's what historians tell us happened with the First Great Awakening that preceded the American Revolution. It happened in the case of the Second Great Awakening that birthed the anti-slavery movement, the Republican Party, and ultimately ended slavery. And, of course, I write about this in the book, but the observers of that time argued that the Civil War was God's judgment on America. Certainly Abraham Lincoln argued that and said as much in his very famous second inaugural address. And then some historians argue that there was a Fourth Great Awakening that took place roughly between 1970 and 2000. The mainline churches lost half their members. Evangelical churches doubled in membership. The number of viewers of Christian television increased fivefold. The Southern Baptist Convention was pulled back from the brink of sliding into liberalism and was, became much more orthodox and Bible-believing. You had the election of John Paul II as Pope, and he was an anti-communist and a very fierce opponent of tyranny. And you had the election of Ronald Reagan. So, you can debate whether or not these were spiritual awakenings. I believe they were, but it is undeniable that they changed the culture, they changed society, they then in turn changed our politics, and America was changed in the process. And a lot of times when people were giving America up for good, they saw America come back better and stronger than ever before. And as I said, I think it can happen again, and it must happen again.
That's interesting. I've had people in the foreign policy area say that during the Jimmy Carter presidency, it looked like the USA was about 2.5 years away from checkmate against the Soviet Union, that was on the ascendancy. And things during the period you talk about, things really turned around. What do you think about Washington for Jesus? For example, April of the year that Reagan won election, and some of this attempt, I think, to turn back to God.
That is such a great question, because there are not a lot of political observers or historians who really talk that much about Washington for Jesus, but I write about it in Awakening, and I point out that Bill Bright and John Jimenez, who was pastor of the Rock Church in Virginia Beach, really took it on as a major project. Pat Robertson got behind it. It was not political. It was an attempt to gather people on the mall. I think between 500,000 and 1 million people gathered on the mall to pray for God to have mercy on our country. And Bill Bright later said that he believed that the election of Ronald Reagan was really decided. Even though his election wasn't until November, Bright is quoted, and I cited in the book, that he believed very strongly that the turn that happened in American culture that was then reflected in our politics happened as a result of Washington for Jesus. And I know Pat Robertson felt that very strongly too. So, those kinds of moves, Washington for Jesus, the election of Adrian Rogers as the first conservative Bible-believing president of the Southern Baptist Convention in modern times, Jerry Falwell, founding moral majority, John Paul II's election as the first non-Italian pope in 455 years, somebody who was committed. Keep in mind, this was just after the Soviet tanks had rolled into Poland, his mother country, and crushed Solidarity. And then Ronald Reagan and John Paul II joined forces to keep Solidarity afloat. And the two things that kept Solidarity and the opposition to Soviet communism afloat were A, the Catholic parishes in Poland, and B, the CIA and the U.S. government. So it was really a kind of a holy alliance. And all these things flowed out of spiritual moves that were going on in the churches, both Protestant and Catholic.
Yeah, I've heard some people suggest that God, Ronald Reagan, as much as I love him, did not save us, but God used Ronald Reagan to help save us. But unfortunately, can you hold on through a 2-minute break?
Sure.
All right, we've got to take a break here on the Conservative Commandos radio show with our honored guest, Ralph Reed, and your host, Rick Trader, and your co-host, John Mosley. Back to you, Rick Trader.
And we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet via our internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. Don't forget to check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioshow.com and CCRShow.com. Please don't go away. John and I will be back to continue our conversation with Ralph Reed about his new book, Awakening.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station, and around the world on the internet. And our guest this segment is Ralph Reed, founder of the Faith and Freedom Coalition and the author of the new book, Awakening. Ralph, thanks for holding through the break. We appreciate your time.
You bet. Good to be with you.
Great to have you with us. Great to have you. Great to speak with you again. Ralph, I was wondering if you could speak for a minute about the media's role in the moral decline of our country.
The media's role?
Yeah, the modern media's role, the mass media.
Well, I think unfortunately, the dominant media and the popular culture have really become a free fire zone on traditional values and on expressions of Christian faith in the public square. I'm sure you guys saw, the other day when the Academy Awards stripped the Oscar nomination for Best Song for Alone Yet Not Alone, which was a song from the film of the same name, a song sung by Joni Eareckson Tada with a very strong redemptive message. And they argued that it should be stripped of Best Song nomination because the one of the producers of the film had sent an email to some of the voters. Well, you've got some films that are running, multi-million-dollar Oscar campaigns, and here they strip a nomination because of one email. Mm-hmm. It's Christian bigotry. And I think whether you look at, things like Miley Cyrus twerking at the MTV Awards, or, before that, the lesbian kiss between Madonna and Britney Spears, and the other just decadence and appeals to hedonism that masquerade as entertainment, that really, leaving aside the morality of it, they're really designed entirely to shock and desensitize. There's nothing redemptive about it. And, you look at things like Bill Maher, for example, on his HBO program within the last few weeks, saying that anybody who believes in the Bible, in this case he was referencing the biblical account of Noah, is an idiot and is not considered intelligent and doesn't belong in polite society. Now, some might look at these things and say, well, this is just part of a free society and people are going to be free to express different viewpoints. And certainly there's truth to that. But I also think there's an aspect of this that is systematic, that is deliberate, that is designed to stigmatize, to demean, and to marginalize the role of faith in the dominant society and in the public square. And what they're really trying to do is they're trying to say to anybody who believes in the Bible as the Word of God and believes that the Bible contains God's plan for humanity and is His unique revelation for how we should order both our individual lives as well as the larger society, they're basically saying, you have no place, your job is to be confined in your own little stained glass ghetto, and you're going to be allowed to be a citizen. You're just going to be a second-class citizen, and you're going to be allowed to have a voice. It's just going to be a diminished, lowered voice, and that's what I think the purpose is, to demean and to stigmatize and to marginalize. And I think in that sense, I think popular culture, Hollywood, and the dominant media have had a very destructive role in this whole area of values.
You know, Ralph, before we went to the break, you and John were talking about Washington for Jesus, and it made me think about America's spiritual beginnings compared to this crowd that wants to eliminate spirituality and faith from our country. You know, our founding fathers never started a meeting without starting it with a prayer. And our George Washington, our first president, inserted, "Help me God," and "Help me God" in his inauguration oath. What do we do to counteract this crowd that wants to remove our spirituality from our country?
Well, I think what we have to do is we have to make it clear that the view of the founders and the view of the courts for most of American history was never that the Disestablishment Clause, that is to say the provision in the First Amendment that ensures that we will never have an established church or an official religion, that should not mean that the free exercise of our religion in the public square should in any way be restricted. And we see it in lots of ways. You know, we've seen it in the rulings on things like the display of the Ten Commandments or prayer in school or in general Establishment Clause jurisprudence, which is so confusing and so hostile to religion that the court, for example, the Supreme Court outlawed a simple non-sectarian prayer offered by a Jewish rabbi at a baccalaureate service. I mean, this was not anything other than a voluntary service. It wasn't a graduation service. Nobody was compelled to attend. These are the kinds of things the court has done. And I think we need to make it clear that we don't want to combine church and state. I want separation of church and state, not to protect the state from the church, but to protect the church from the state. But that doesn't mean that you can't have "In God We Trust" on our coins. It doesn't mean that you can't have the display of the Ten Commandments over the Supreme Court, which is displayed in a mural over their heads in the Supreme Court building. It doesn't mean you can't have chaplains in the armed forces. It doesn't mean you can't open legislative sessions with prayer. There's an appropriate role for non-sectarian faith to be expressed in a public square, and it shouldn't be confined to a closet like it's pornography. And I think if we just keep making that point, there's lots of good groups out there litigating on this point, whether it's the American Center for Law and Justice or Liberty Counsel or Alliance Defense Fund or many others. And ACLJ and Alliance Defense Fund just won a great case where there was a professor who was basically denied tenure because he was expressing Christian and conservative viewpoints on social media and in op-eds and things of that nature, and they sued and they won that case. We have to defend the rights of Christians to express their faith, including in the public square, including in the civic arena.
This is John Mosley back again with our guest Ralph Reed talking about your new book, Awakening. And I wanted to to get back again to some sense of possibility in all this situation. Your book is advertised or announced as providing practical steps and a bold plan that will help restore America to greatness. And I think there's a lot of people thinking that there's nothing that can be done, or there's nothing that I can do. You want to address again people buying this book, Awakening, looking for hope about what they can do and what can be done to turn our country around?
Well, look, I argue ultimately that the only thing that's going to turn America around is a spiritual awakening. And, we talked earlier in the show about the fact that that's happened before. It can happen again, and if enough people pray, if enough people repent, and it doesn't require a majority vote. It never has. Beyond that, beyond the fact that we need to revivify our churches and revivify the faith journey and the spiritual life of our nation through that kind of an awakening, I also present in the book, it's the final chapter in the book, a 6-step plan on how to turn America around. And it involves being effective citizens and being salt and light of our communities, our state, and our nation. And I talk about things that are very practical that people can do, like getting involved in a political party, getting involved in public policy organizations, whether it's Faith and Freedom Coalition, Chamber of Commerce, National Rifle Association, the importance of developing a personal relationship with elected officials. If the only time we contacted elected officials is when we're phoning and emailing them in anger over some bad vote, it's too late. If you really want to influence them, you need to get to know them. You need to become supporters of those that you support and are friendly with, because who are we most influenced by? We're influenced by those that we are closest to. And I talk about some specific things that you can do to do that. So we also need to build strong organizations in our churches and in our neighborhoods and our precincts to register voters and turn out voters. We estimate at Faith and Freedom Coalition that approximately 17 million evangelical Christians did not go to the polls in 2012, about half of whom because they weren't registered to vote, and about half were registered but didn't bother to vote. If those 17 million voters had turned out, we would have had a very different outcome. But it's not just about outcomes. It's about being an effective witness, and part of being an effective witness as a believer is being an effective citizen. The early apostles were effective citizens. Paul was a Roman citizen who claimed his rights as a Roman citizen, including appealing all the way to Caesar when his rights were being violated. If the early apostles were so committed to citizenship that they would appeal to Caesar, which was the most cherished right of a citizen of Rome, then we ought to be exercising our most cherished right.
Amazing. Well, really, kind of an overtime, and I do want to have you give our website or whatever, but we're going to get a little minute or two extra time. You talk about in your book, Awakening, that you don't need a majority. You don't need to be a majority. And I guess you're saying that we don't have to convince everybody in America to believe what we believe in order to turn this around. I think that's a hopeful message.
Yeah, I think it is a hopeful message. And, people might look at the current trend lines of Obamacare and this anemic, virtually jobless recovery we've been in for the last 6 years and our national debt and say, well, last person, please turn the lights out. Everybody head for the lifeboats. America's going down. But I don't agree with Warren Buffett's politics necessarily, but there's one thing that Warren Buffett recently said that I agree with, and that is he said nobody has ever won by betting against America. And I think that's right. I think that's right in our markets, and I think that's right when it comes to our spiritual life. So if people want to find out more about Awakening, if they want to get the book, they can go to Amazon, they can go to christianbook.com or .net, they can go to awakeningbook.net. There's lots of places to find out about Awakening. It's in bookstores everywhere. And if they want to find out more about Faith and Freedom Coalition, which is the public policy organization I head that now has over 800,000 members and 400 chapters nationwide, they can go to ffcoalition.com. That's ffcoalition.com, and they can send us an email or sign up to get more information.
Well, that's wonderful. We're very honored to have you here, Ralph Reed, with your book, Awakening. I think people need to get this book, Awakening, again, because we go between despair and action, and I think we need to take the situation very seriously, and yet we also need to be looking at what we can do, and it's very exciting. You go through in great detail a lot about that it is possible to have an awakening and turn this around. I think that's something that really should motivate people. So thank you, Ralph Reed, for being with us on the Conservative Commanders Radio Show, and back to you, Rick Trader.
All right, we are going to take a break. You're listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, where we come to you live Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. and around the world on the internet. Don't go away. John and I will be right back with our next guest.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the Sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commanders Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader, and I am your co-host for today, Jonathan Mosley. And I believe we have on the line our next guest, Pastor Stephen Broden of the Constitutional Defenders of Texas. He is a pastor and a business owner, Stephen Broden. He was awarded as a champion of the Republican Party by the National Republican Congressional Committee's Business Advisory Council for Texas, and he's also received the Ronald Reagan Gold Medal Award. Stephen Broden is a speaker for the Tea Party movement and has been a commentator on the Fox News channel, including on the Glenn Beck Show and elsewhere. Stephen Broden ran for Congress in 2010, quite an undertaking always. He won the Republican primary runoff with 67.5% of the vote. My own interpretation is that the Democrats then accused Broden of agreeing with Thomas Jefferson about holding a government accountable when it goes too far. Republican Broden lost to the Democrat, at least so far. Stephen Broden is a spokesman for the Black Pro-Life Movement in Dallas and a contributor to blackprolifemovement.blogspot.com. He is the founder of the Ebony Berean, an organization whose mission includes informing African-American pastors on Americans' culture war. And there's more. Actually, I'm going to cut short because there's so many things we could talk about with Stephen Broden. But today we want to focus, I think, on tremendous events we saw out in Nevada on the Bundy Ranch and its relation to Texas. Welcome to the Conservative Commanders Radio Show, Stephen Broden.
It is a pleasure to be with you, Ben.
All right, there's so much, and the more I get to know about you, I want to have 5 shows with you here. But today, I think you are very concerned, as we all are, about the I don't know what to call it, the standoff in the desert there. What are you thinking?
Well, it's a significant event in the history of our nation, particularly in light of the fact that we're seeing a government that is expanding, that is in contradiction in many instances to the Constitution and the intent of the Founding Fathers. And so this event that's taking place in Nevada ought to be a red flag for all Americans, liberty-loving Americans, that something is afoul in our government. And we're seeing an unleashing of our government upon its citizens, upon private citizens. This land grab here is alarming, and I think it ought to wake all of us up to the fact that our liberties are in fact tenuous if in fact we are not alert and involved in protecting them. I think this is significant.
Well, it certainly should. Let me contrast 2 things for the sake of argument, of promoting the argument here. We just had Ralph Reed with us, talk with his book Awakening. I wish we had more time. I think he relates it to the great awakenings that happened in our country. I'd like to get that connection in there. But then I think it was Winston Churchill who said that mankind occasionally stumbles across the truth and then gets up, brushes himself on, and goes on his way, as if nothing happened. So it seems like we have a moment here, as we do, where either this could become a really seminal moment, or it could just fade away like so many things did. People could go back to watching the Kardashians or something. What do you think about the response this has gotten so far, which is kind of encouraging?
Well, I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged that the Patriots who made it their task to show up in Nevada and to stand alongside Clive as he took a stand principally. And I think that's very encouraging. It certainly sends a signal across America that something is going on here that merits their attention. And I think the issue is for people like you and I to seize the moment and to seize it to do a time of instruction, information exchange, education, getting them up to speed as to why it is important that we are engaged at a level that will regulate and control our government at this point, as opposed to allowing them to go unfettered and unchecked in doing the kind of heinous things that they were doing right there in Nevada. I think it is a moment for us. I think we need to seize the moment. This is a chance, again, for us who are a part of the Tea Party and other organizations that are patriot organizations to instruct the American population, the American citizen, in the fact that the United States government has only 2 legitimate functions. One is to protect the unalienable rights of its citizens, and 2 is to provide those services specified and authorized by its citizens. And if, in fact, we as a people authorize the Bureau of Land Management to be armed as if it was a military operation, then we need to go back and revisit that again, take that authority from them, and to regulate them back under the Constitution, back under the precepts and concepts that are crafted and designed and set forth in the Constitution. I think they have gone beyond the Constitution, and it requires us as citizens to check them and to put them back in their place.
Stephen, one of the things that I find very interesting, I found an article today where Harry Reid actually called the people that are defending the Bundy's rights, he's calling them terrorists. And I think it's very interesting that when Barack Obama refused to call the killer at Fort Hood a terrorist, that Harry Reid didn't have a problem with that. He didn't have a problem with that. But these people out in Nevada who are defending the Bundy Ranch and the Bundy rights, according to Harry Reid, they're the terrorists. Your thoughts?
Well, I think that you judge what is said based upon who said it. And Harry Reid is a clear ideologue that is engaged in perpetrating a progressive agenda in America, one that is sourced in socialism and communism. And so anything that he says is coming from a worldview that does not fit with the worldview that is sourced in the Constitution. This man is out of control, and he needs to be checked. And I think, unfortunately, the state of Nevada should have gotten rid of him a long time ago. They had a chance to do it, and they didn't do it. So, you know, what we're seeing is a man who is reflecting a value system that does not reflect a constitutional perspective or a free market system perspective. And so what we're seeing is that these ideologues who are running our government around, running the Senate and in the executive branch, are pushing an ideology that's sourced in what I call a Hegelian dialect, where they're attempting to create chaos, and they're creating and to synthesize with what they call the theses, antitheses, and this theses or synthesis, which moves us away from the principles of the Constitution. I am very disturbed that this man is fingering Americans as patriot Americans as terrorists.
Well, you know, this is John Mosley again. You know, you mentioned a bit about the armed forces, and we've seen. In fact, John Fund has an article up. I think it's at Politico about all the different administrative federal agencies that have SWAT forces, basically. This is right. Just National Review Online, the United States of SWAT. He's got it here. We talked about the United States Department of Education has basically a paramilitary force. This is just astonishing. I mean, and you talk about the constitutional authority. Why don't you elaborate on that? In this situation, what should the correct constitutional approach be?
Hey, Stephen and John, could I ask you, Stephen, if I could ask you to hold your answer to that, because we do have to take a break. You are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station, and around the world on the internet via our internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And don't forget, you can listen to our show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. Call using your cell phone at no extra cost. There's no cost for this call, using your mobile minutes. Don't go away. John and I will be right back with Stephen Bowden.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. EnjoyAbaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
EnjoyAbaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today, the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Hello, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. This is your co-host, John Mosley. Your host, as always, is Rick Trader, and our guest is Stephen Brodin, a congressional candidate and pastor and leading activist in Texas. And I'm sorry to launch a question on you without watching the time, but let me ask it this way. Nevada has sheriffs. Texas has sheriffs, and they have a state government, and yet you've got the Bureau of Land Management running around with all these guns and snipers. And you talked about what's constitutional. What do you think about that?
Well, that's clearly, in my mind, another example or indicator that the government is out of control, and that we, the people, have been sort of passively watching them develop in a way that is contradictory to the specified purposes that our founding fathers put forth in the Constitution. And one thing that I believe that can regulate and pull them back under control is the Constitution. But but it has to be enforced. I think it was somebody who wrote, I think it was Thomas Jefferson, who said that the Constitution is just a paper. It's just a piece of paper. And has ideas on it, but it has to be enforced, and we the people must enforce it. We the people of the United States, in order to perform, and that perform means that we are actively engaged. The verb indicates action. And so in order to bring these federal agencies under control, we've got to put them back under the Constitution. And the Constitution was written to limit government, not the people. The people are the ones who are to limit the government. So that's our duty and responsibility. We've allowed them to become paramilitary. Why are we allowing that? Congress has an oversight responsibility to ensure that all the agencies are lining up and doing their duties according to the Constitution. They have failed in their duty and responsibility to do that. And the reason why they have failed is that we have not held them to account. And we've got to do that in order to get this back under control. A friend of mine, John McManus, with the John Birch Society, said this. He said, America was founded upon a religious-based heritage of liberty under law, and that the Constitution was written to limit the government, not the people. And he's absolutely right. Absolutely right. And we need to limit the government by enforcing the Constitution. Right now, I believe that all three branches of our government is out of control and are not doing it according to the Constitution.
Well, tell us what you're seeing there in Texas here now, and the possible widening of these alarming events.
Oh, absolutely. The BLM is here, is eyeing land and trying to grab land in Texas on the Texas-Oklahoma border. And it's very similar to what's happening in Nevada. However, we have a rancher who actually owns the deed, who has the deed to the property, and have been paying taxes on it. And somehow the federal court, some 30 years ago, made a decision against this rancher, and they took about 90 acres of his land. And now here they're back again, eyeing another 120 acres of his land. And so we're looking at the same thing. However, I mean, here in Texas, a number of our elected officials are stepping forward to contest what BLM is doing here, and so it is taking a more of a legitimate approach to this thing relative to the laws of the state of Texas and to what's happening with their attempt to try to pull this property away from this man.
What do you stand at? What is the? I had a boss who always talked about excuse versus the reason. The reason is one thing, and the excuse is something else. But what is supposedly the rationale for the Bureau of Land Management to get anywhere near the Texas-Oklahoma border,
or even the land in Nevada, for that matter?
Right.
Although there's some, I've heard some discussion that most of the land in the state of Nevada is owned by the federal government. Have you heard that?
What's that?
That most of the land.
Oh, yes.
In the state of Nevada is owned by the federal government.
And are you concerned about that?
I heard about that. I don't know whether that's true or not. But apparently, in order for them to come into the 50 states, to become a state, that they had to agree that they would give up their rights to the land in Nevada.
Hey, Stephen and John, actually, that is a fact that 87% of the land in Nevada is owned by the federal government. And, Stephen, you're also right that it was one of the stipulations for Nevada becoming a state, because at the time when it became a state, it did not have a large enough population to be officially be accepted as a state. So as a deal, they agreed 7% of the land back to the federal government.
Well, that's not the case here in Texas. It's not the case here in Texas. This property is legitimately a part of the state of Texas, and it's owned privately by this rancher. And so the federal government is coming in and attempting to take land and to seize this land for reasons unbeknownst. It's not specified or clear as to why they're attempting to do this. I was talking earlier with...
well, Stephen, sorry to interrupt, but you can always follow the money trail on that one, I think. For instance, again, in Nevada, another reason why the federal government was so eager to make Nevada a state, it was during the time of the Civil War, and they wanted the silver, because Nevada was rich in silver at the time. The federal government wanted that silver to help pay for the Civil War. So, follow the money trail. And also, Stephen, from what I understand, there's also some controversies with the Bundy Ranch, that one of the reasons the federal government wants to take this land is that there is land that is owned or controlled by a company that Harry Reid's son works for, that they want to transport the desert tortoise from this other land where they want to develop a solar panel farm and use the Bundy Ranch land to transport these desert tortoises to. So, you always got to follow the money trail on these things, Stephen, and you can never go wrong. I don't know what's going on in Texas, but...
The thing about it is very suspect at this point, because I think if you got to connect the dots, there are larger issues here, I believe, that we must begin to look at. And I was talking earlier with one of your hosts of the show that there's this thing that the United Nations have called Agenda 21. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Oh, absolutely.
They're attempting what they call sustainable development, where they're attempting to try to control and regulate how people use land and how to protect the environment, not only here in the United States, but globally, and seizing property and using that property for their purposes. Somehow, I think in the shadows, we've got to be concerned that this ideology may be driving the BLM in terms of their attempting to try to control and regulate land across America. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Agenda 21.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think this is part of it? There has to, when something doesn't make sense from what you can see, it's probably not because there's anything wrong with the people upstairs. It's that there's something you can't see that's driving, events, that's responsible for things. And unfortunately, we get, we have trouble with that. We say that that's crazy. Well, it's not crazy. It's just that there's something going on that we're not seeing, explaining all of this. But so I'm very concerned about Texas. I think we've got we got less than 1 minute left. We've got to wrap up here. I'd like to keep watching. Maybe we could have you back on all the different things you're involved in and keeping an eye on that Oklahoma-Texas border. That sounds very
we're looking at that very carefully. And Like I said, Texas Attorney General Greg Abbott is involved. He's fired up on this issue. He's fired off a letter to the BLM director, Neil, I think his name is Corzine, and saying that this is appears to be an aggressive expansion of the BLM's role, which goes beyond the purview or the defined definitions of what that organization
Okay, well, we got to
is all
go
about.
now, so we hope to have you on back soon, Stephan Brugge.
God bless you.
Back to your career.
All right, with that, we do have to wrap because we're out of time. We got to run, we got to go. Take care, God bless, and we'll see you tomorrow on the radio.
Thank you for listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show. Huge thanks to our co-hosts, contributors, patrons, callers, and our friends at WNJC 1360 and WIFI 1460, where we broadcast live every Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern and 2 to 4 p.m. Central. Look for us on the internet at www.ccrshow.com. Until next time, we are the Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.